Even though the spotlight almost always shines on the obvious favorites, there's a silent truth lingering over the NBA's Western Conference. Time is running out for one of the league's most iconic franchises. The championship window doesn't stay open forever, and in Golden State's case, every second that passes without a bold decision could be pushing the team into yet another irrelevant year. The sense that the team needs help is as visible as it is uncomfortable. And the question no one wants to ask out loud, but everyone is thinking, is straightforward. Does the Warriors organization still have a real plan to win? Last season revealed what many had feared. As brilliant as Stephen Curry still is, the weight can no longer rest solely on his shoulders. Draymond Green, with his defensive energy and winning mentality, remains a factor, but the roster around them is clearly not at the level required for a title run. Worse yet, it seems even the front office lacks clarity about which path to take. It's clear that without meaningful reinforcements, the upcoming season could just be another frustrating repeat of the last few. But what do you do when you're cornered? The idea of a full rebuild is ruled out by the presence of icons like Curry and Green, who deserve to finish their careers at a high level. The problem is that keeping those names and still competing requires a precise move, a masterstroke. And this is where the name that's beginning to circulate behind the scenes as a potential solution comes in: Lorie Markkanen. It's almost inevitable to bring him up when talking about an impactful, immediate reshaping. Markkanen has rare attributes for his position: size, mobility, court vision, consistent long-range shooting, and above all, the ability to space the floor without compromising the defense. He would be, in theory, the ideal fit for the Warriors' style, especially in a system that values tactical intelligence and constant movement. Still, the situation is anything but simple. Though desperate for talent, Golden State is limited in trade options. The current roster doesn't offer many appealing pieces to rivals, and truly valuable assets are scarce. Jonathan Kuminga is perhaps the only trade chip with enough weight to draw real attention. But giving him up would require absolute conviction that Markkanen is the right man to change the franchise's course, and that he's actually available, which for now is highly doubtful. Speculation gained traction after a specialized outlet suggested the Warriors should go all in for Lorie. According to Last Word on Sports, the Utah Jazz forward could be exactly what's missing to restore real competitiveness to the California team. They were emphatic in stating that with Markkanen's technical profile and ability to adapt to the modern game, Golden State would have a viable path to balance the roster around their veteran stars. But for that to happen, Utah would first have to be open to negotiations, and there lies the impasse. According to journalist Andy Larson of the Salt Lake Tribune, the Salt Lake City franchise shows no urgency in parting with its best player. On the contrary, internally, the Jazz appear convinced that Markkanen will be a central piece in their attempt to build a competitive roster in the coming years. The offers received so far haven't impressed the front office, and even if more proposals come in, there's a sense they would have to be absurdly strong to change the situation. Larson was clear. "I think the trend is he stays here. Utah doesn't feel the need to trade him at this point, and the offers haven't been of the caliber that would change that thinking." In other words, any negotiation for Markkanen faces not only the Warriors' lack of assets, but the firm resistance of a front office that sees strategic value in keeping the player. But what if circumstances change? The NBA is, above all else, a volatile organism. No situation remains static for long. Injuries, underwhelming results, fan pressure, or changes in philosophy can alter decisions overnight. That's why, even with the current scenario unfavorable, the Warriors haven't given up. The franchise continues to watch, probe, and wait for the right moment to make an aggressive move. And this is where the narrative becomes more complex. As time passes and rivals bolster their rosters, patience may cease to be a virtue and instead become a weakness. Every loss accumulated by Utah, every frustration Markkanen feels due to the lack of creative playmakers around him, could be a crack in the shield that currently appears impenetrable. That's when Golden State must be ready, because if that moment arrives, It will be unique, and hesitation could cost not just another season, but the final stretch of the careers of its greatest legends. This isn't just about a trade, it's about identity. It's about the courage to change. The Warriors are standing at a crossroads. And the real question is, are they still that bold, creative franchise that reinvented the game and shocked the world? Or have they become just another team living off past glory? To truly understand why the Utah Jazz have not yet succumbed to the temptation of listening to offers for Markkanen, you have to dive deep into the project the franchise is trying to build far from the major media centers. Unlike teams with recent finals tradition, the Jazz are betting on patience, internal development, and pieces that can grow together in the medium and long term. And Lorie is not just a piece, he is the centerpiece of that project. After seasons fluctuating between relevance and rebuilding, Utah found something rare in Markkanen: consistency. We're not talking about a flashy player who shines in isolated games and disappears the rest of the season. We're talking about an athlete who delivers, who commits, who quietly fits into any tactical scheme, and, perhaps most importantly, who feels at home where he is. That kind of profile is a luxury in today's NBA, where egos, dissatisfaction, and outside pressure often destabilize even the most solid locker room. The Jazz front office knows this. It's no coincidence that, even amid rumors and speculation, the club's response has been firm. We still believe he'll be part of our core moving forward. That conviction isn't rhetoric. It's strategic. Utah knows it won't find another player with the same combination of work ethic, technical talent, and emotional steadiness. And because of that, any trade discussion would need to start with an over-the-top offer, something no one has delivered so far. It's within this context that the Golden State Warriors find themselves in a cruel dilemma. Even if the desire exists, they lack the leverage. Jonathan Kuminga is, in fact, the team's most valuable young asset, an explosive, athletic forward with a sky-high ceiling and flashes of dominance. But the Jazz aren't exactly desperate for raw youth. What they want is established value, or multiple draft picks that give them full control over their future. The question that lingers is, would the Warriors have the guts to put Kuminga and one or two valuable picks on the table? That doubt is dividing San Francisco's front office. On one side, there's the urgency to deliver a competitive roster for Curry before time catches up with him. On the other, there's the fear of giving up a future that just might, flourish if Kuminga takes the expected leap. Balancing the present and the future has always been a challenge for teams that have reached the top. Repeatedly, NBA history has shown that empires fall because they didn't know when to take risks and when to hold the line. But what about Markkanen? What does he want? Publicly, the player stays aligned with the franchise's messaging. He says he's focused, that he likes the city, that he trusts the project, but the truth rarely comes out in formal interviews. What's being heard behind the scenes, and what few dare to admit, is that the Finnish star misses having an elite point guard by his side. In Utah, he's had to reinvent himself to shine without someone to facilitate his game. And for a player who depends on off-ball movement and reading, that's a silent burden. In the Warriors' system, however, that problem would simply vanish. There, he would receive pinpoint passes, enjoy synchronized movement, defensive coverage, and the freedom to explore every inch of the court. The technical fit is nearly perfect, and that's why Golden State's front office continues pushing behind the scenes. Now stop and think, what if, due to an early season stumble, the Jazz start to fall short? What if a significant injury hits the roster? What if the locker room begins to show signs of demotivation? In those scenarios, possible and not so improbable, Markkanen's trade value would change, and with it, the franchise's willingness to listen to more aggressive offers. That's why the Warriors are staying alert. They know that in the NBA, victories aren't earned only on the court. They belong to those who anticipate, to those who understand the flow of the game before it unfolds. That's the difference between reacting and dominating. But of course, we can't ignore the risks. If Golden State misses the mark on this attempt, they lose Kuminga, lose picks, and perhaps lose the chance to rebuild around youth. And what if Markkanen doesn't adapt? What if the fit remains only theoretical? The cost of failure would be far too high. That's why this decision is more than a simple trade. It's an emotional gamble, an all-or-nothing move. Now, do you see why this story goes far beyond names and numbers? This is about legacy, about convictions, about courage. Imagine the psychological impact of a player like Markkanen entering a roster that already carries championship experience, an expectant fan base, and a winning culture. He would no longer have to carry the team on his shoulders, as he's often been forced to do in Utah. He could, finally, be the ideal player in the right system. That wouldn't just unlock his full potential. It might reveal a side of him the public has yet to see. The truth is, this kind of opportunity can transform careers. Players are often judged by their numbers, without any regard for the system they're in. Markkanen, although consistent, has never had the chance to play alongside someone of Curry's caliber or under an organization as tactically prepared as the Warriors. And if that chance arises, it won't just be Golden State who wins. It'll be basketball. While the Warriors carefully measure each step, trying to strike the perfect balance between risk and opportunity, a new threat is beginning to take shape. And it doesn't come from within. It's coming from the outside. Other Western Conference teams, younger, bolder, and with more cap space flexibility and trade assets, are watching the same thing Golden State is. Markkanen might be the final piece of a puzzle that leads them straight to the finals. Teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder and Sacramento Kings have already started moving quietly, exploring possibilities and building tempting trade packages. Both have what the Warriors currently lack: a stockpile of future draft picks, intriguing young contracts, and a roster with room to grow. The mere existence of these alternatives puts pressure on Golden State's front office. They're not the only ones interested, and they know it. If Utah decides, even quietly, to listen to offers, the situation becomes a race. There won't be a second chance. The team that moves first, the one that makes the boldest and most solid offer, could land Markkanen before the Warriors even have time to react. That would push Golden State into an even more desperate position, caught between aging veterans and a supporting cast that no longer strikes fear into anyone. Just imagine for a moment Markkanen being announced as part of a direct Western rival. Imagine him playing next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or De'Aaron Fox. Do you feel the gravity of that possibility? It's like watching a championship slip through your fingers without even having the chance to compete. That's the weight of a miscalculation. And that silent tension is beginning to spread behind the scenes in Golden State, where every front office meeting carries a hushed sense of urgency, a feeling that time is closing in. But it's not just about speed, it's also about courage. To bring in Markkanen, Golden State might have to break its own patterns, let go of its historical caution, and act like this is their final breath. It's not blind desperation, it's about reading the moment correctly. The championship window is barely open. Move too slowly, and it slams shut forever. And there's one more detail that makes this equation even more sensitive: the emotional factor. The fans, the heartbeat that keeps everything standing. Warriors fans don't want to see their legend, Stephen Curry, end his career playing in meaningless play-ins. They want a farewell worthy of greatness. They want finals, trophies, memories. And deep down, they know, without help, it's not going to happen. That silent scream from the stands is also pressing on the front office. And not just them, it's pressing on the players, it's pressing on Curry, it's pressing on the locker room, because there's something deeply symbolic about watching an icon fight alone. It's beautiful, it's heroic, but it's also unfair. Basketball is a team sport, and the front office knows that if they don't act, the narrative could flip. What's seen as glory today might become regret tomorrow. Meanwhile, on Markkanen's side, the uncertainty is growing. If no offer takes him out of Utah now, what awaits him in the future? Will he have another solid yet wasted season, far from the spotlight, far from a real title run? Or will he finally get the chance to play somewhere built to maximize his game? The truth is, Lorie Markkin is ready for the now. His moment is here, and that's exactly what makes him so coveted. If he stays with the Jazz, he might remain the face of a long and uncertain rebuild. But if he ends up in the right place, at the right time, he could be remembered as the one who flipped the switch. And this is where Golden State comes in again. Because if there's one team that has proven capable of getting the best out of undervalued talent, it's the Warriors. They've elevated careers, redefined roles, and challenged the league's norms. The only question that remains is, do they still have enough left to do it again? In practice, time will tell. But emotionally, the clock is already ticking too fast. Everything this team has built, the titles, the records, the legends, can't be wasted on a lukewarm ending. Either they move forward with boldness, or they sink into nostalgia. And that's the choice that defines everything. Does Golden State want to keep being remembered as a revolutionary force, or as a sleeping giant that faded before its final battle? At 22 years old, a young Filipino player is beginning to gain the spotlight in an undeniable way. It's not just about his size, although his towering 2.16 meters naturally draw attention. What truly impresses is the rare combination of wingspan, mobility, and coordination he brings to the court. In an increasingly demanding basketball world, Sotto emerges as an intriguing prospect, carrying not only the weight of his technical skills, but also the expectations of an entire nation. Kai's journey so far hasn't been simple. Raised in Manila, he had to balance big dreams with the harsh reality of high-performance sports from an early age. After stints in smaller leagues, including seasons abroad, the young center has shown flashes of offensive talent and a defensive presence that is constantly evolving. His presence in the paint is intimidating and, despite his young age, he has already demonstrated a game IQ above average for players in his position. Now, rumors of a possible NBA entry, more specifically into one of the most iconic teams in recent years, are capturing the imagination of fans. There is talk of a potential opportunity with the Golden State Warriors, one of the league's most influential franchises, both on and off the court. If this move materializes, it won't just be a new chapter in Kai's career, but a new era of representation and global impact for basketball. Joining the NBA is no easy task for anyone, and Kai knows that. The American League is a ruthless environment where talent alone doesn't guarantee success. The physical demands are brutal. The speed of decision-making on the court, the intensity of practices, the pace of the game, and the sophistication of tactical systems require more than height and skill. They demand mental resilience, impeccable physical preparation, and a sharp ability to adapt. Kai has already played in the Japanese league, where he was able to show glimpses of his potential, but the NBA is a different universe. There, every mistake is amplified, every weakness is studied and exploited by opponents. To survive, and more importantly, to thrive, he will have to evolve quickly. Improvements in reaction time, endurance in longer games, the ability to guard quicker players, and an understanding of the league's complex defensive schemes are just some of the challenges he will face. On the other hand, the Golden State Warriors are not just any team. The organization has a strong track record of developing talent and giving space for emerging players to grow alongside established stars. Working in an environment led by names like Stephen Curry and Draymond Green could be a turning point for Kai. He would have access to a core of experienced leadership and an elite coaching staff capable of refining his raw talent into a key piece for the franchise's future. At the same time, the Warriors are at a delicate moment in their trajectory. Still holding firm ambitions of winning titles in the short term, the team needs to decide carefully how to allocate each roster spot. Young players typically don't have the luxury of making repeated mistakes, and Kai will need to prove consistently that he deserves every minute on the court. The margin for error is small, and the time to adapt will be short. There's also a cultural component that cannot be ignored. The Bay Area is home to one of the largest Filipino communities outside the Philippines. Kai's arrival would mean much more than just a boost in the paint. It would be a powerful symbol of inclusion and cultural connection. The emotional and symbolic impact of seeing him wear the Warriors jersey in an arena where hundreds of Filipino flags wave in the stands would carry a weight difficult to measure. It would be a gesture that resonates beyond California's borders, echoing across the ocean, in the streets of Manila and Cebu. From a commercial standpoint, the idea is equally exciting. The NBA, as a global league, has long understood the value of athletes who serve as cultural bridges. With a population of over 110 million basketball enthusiasts, the Philippines represents a market ripe for exploration. Sotto wouldn't just be a player. He'd be an ambassador of Filipino basketball on the world's biggest stage. Imagine the immediate effect on merchandise sales. Jerseys, caps, sneakers with his signature. Advertising partnerships with Asian companies, special broadcasts for the Filipino audience, basketball clinics held across Southeast Asian countries. The Warriors brand, already established as a global powerhouse, could reach even greater heights. But all of this depends on one essential variable: performance. No marketing strategy survives without being backed by results on the court, and that's where Kai will face his greatest test. He'll have to evolve quickly, showing he can protect the rim with authority, read the game with maturity, and contribute offensively with more than just the occasional dunk. His ability to move laterally, communicate on the court, and understand the timing of screens and rotations will be tested constantly. The truth is that Sotto carries with him as much potential as he does responsibility. He could become the answer the Warriors are looking for to face physically dominant opponents, offering rebounds, blocks, and a constant presence in the paint. But he could also be seen as a long-term project not yet ready for the main stage. The difference between these two narratives will largely be in his hands. The Warriors' playing style, known for its offensive fluidity and emphasis on off-ball movement, will require Kai to develop other areas of his game. It's not enough to be a traditional center. He'll have to become a modern player with a good mid-range shot, the ability to make the right pass at the right time, and above all, understand his role within a highly synchronized system. If he can achieve all that, Kai may not only remain in the NBA, but leave a lasting mark. He could inspire a new generation of Filipino athletes, proving that it's possible to dream big and make those dreams come true. He could also redefine the role of Asian centers in the league, following in the footsteps of other great international players who paved the way before him. More than anything, he could experience something few athletes ever do: the chance to transform not just his career, but an entire culture's perception within the sport.